and all hockey. But Tom, I wonder if you could share your story when you were a kid and how you got started in hockey, because I know you did play baseball. And growing up, when did you become like hockey was the only thing?
Well, growing up, we had a 2-bedroom house with some bedrooms in the basement, and there's 5 kids. And then one day, my brother came and said, "Can Bruce stay here for a week?" And that ended up to be 8 years. And my dad built a little extension onto this room in the basement. So there's 8 people in the house. So, and we moved there. Like my older brother and sister had a very different upbringing. That my older sister, they're 10 and 8 years older. And my older brother never played hockey, or, and he was a lineman in football and all that kind of stuff. And he never played baseball. But we moved into a very athletic street. The guy across the street from us was a very good hockey player and baseball player and football player. And basically everything was season directed, right? So in the spring, we played baseball. And, as soon as our house was so crowded, as soon as we got up and basically had breakfast, my mom said, "Time to go outside." And that's what we did. And we played catch for forever, you know. And and football season came, and we'd be playing touch football and have games. And in baseball, we'd make up our own little games. We play games with wiffle balls, and if you hit it over this, it was a home run and all this sort of thing. And I ended up in baseball playing in the top team in the province in men's. So I played baseball till I was about 24-ish, I think. And then football, same thing. And I could always really throw. I could throw the American football over 70 yards. And I even played the spring ball at Bemidji because I could throw way farther than their quarterback could. And uh, so I played football in the fall, and then in November the ice would get in, and we played hockey. And it was an outdoor. Everything was outdoors till I was 16. So it cost my dad $10 a year for a community membership, and we could play in the teams, the whole family. So, and $10 was quite a bit of money then. But anyways, we play on teams, and I made, and there was no like 5, 6 year old teams. There was just a pee wee. It was called Tiny Mite, and it was 12 years old. And same thing with baseball. So I made the baseball team when I was 9. I made the hockey team when I was 11. So I played in that community until I was 16. We were the only team ever won a provincial there. But that little community, that one season that we won the provincial, we had one guy that played in the NHL, and my brother played on the Bantam team. There was 2 guys in that team made the NHL. So it was pretty good hockey in the community we played in. And then a lot of guys played college and, minor pro and all that kind of stuff. And, and you basically learned on your own. You played with the older kids. You go on the ice, and there was like 25 guys playing, and you played. You learn how to stick handle. And they'd let you carry the puck when you're really young a little bit, give you a free pass for a while. But if you didn't pass the puck, they just take it off you. And maybe an older kid would say something to you, hold your stick like this or do this. And if you listen, he might say something else. But if you didn't listen, that was the end of your coaching. It was just kind of a total learn by doing. But we played on the road all the time, and we had one of those red, white, and blue rubber balls that bounced like crazy. And we had a kind of a wire thing my mom used for vines to grow on. So we bent it so we had a net. And my brother and I and the neighbor across the street, we played 1-on-1 with one being the goalie. And we put a boot out that you had to go out, kind of like half-court basketball, I guess. I don't know. had to go out around that, and then you're on offense, and it was downhill a little bit. So if whoever missed the net had to get the ball. And the one thing is, I hardly miss the net. You know, like I can't believe how many times guys miss the net. And I think it's because I didn't want to run the 50 yards, you know, that you had to do if you miss a net. And we played forever. And I remember the police, everyone, there's some neighbor would call a police, and they'd come up there and they really didn't care. And they said, well, you guys should get off the road. And we get off the road. And as soon as they drove away, we go back on the road and play. And we did that with baseball and football, just made up our own little games. And the only coaching I remember is on my first year, I had to blow my nose, and I asked the coach, have you got a hanky? And he showed me how to blow my nose using my thumb, and I learned that from him. And I think our practices were the same every year. I mean, we won the ice, skated around a little bit, got in the line, took some shots on the goalie. You do breakout plays. And then, in fact, I went to the eye doctor yesterday, and one breakout play, I got hit in the eye with a snowball and just about was blinded. So I lost some night vision on that one. But anyways, and then controlled scrimmage where the coach would blow the whistle and he'd say, okay, you should be there, you should be there, and you should be there, or whatever. And then a little bit of a fitness skate. And that was the practice plan for 10 years, I think. And, you know, and then I after high school, I went in the seminary and we just played shinny, but I'd blown my knee out playing baseball really bad. And I had to walk with a cane when I was 17 years old for a while. And finally, after a year and a half, the doctor took a bunch of broken pieces out of my knee, the cartilage, so I could, because I went a year there, I couldn't play baseball or anything. And anyways, when I left, I think I told the story. I went to the major junior. Was just centennials there, and I kind of made the team. But then he saw I was 20. He said, "Well, I can't sign you." So I went and I played in the provincial league in the Alberta Junior. And I went to Mount Royal for a semester. Played 2 games there while I was playing for the junior team. Someone found out I was playing on 2 teams, so I had to choose one. So I played the junior, and then I went to Bemidji, and then after that I played in Sioux City, and I started coaching. And we had that junior high hockey. So I also had it was a great school. We had options every morning. So 3 times a week, we took a bus to a rink and we played hockey 3 times a week. And I coached the team for 5 years. And, you know, and George had that program at U of C every year. At this time, he'd bring in an international coach for 2 weeks, and you could take it at 40 hours. You could take it as a course or just, you know, audit it. And so, of course, you can only take it as a course once. So he brought in, I think, 9 guys. I listened to all those guys, best coaches in the world from, you know, and coached. And I got a phone call one day when I'm teaching saying, and I was coaching minor hockey, but saying, do you want to go to SAIT and run practices? They got a new coach. He was the assistant coach, was a goalie. He didn't have any idea how to run a practice. So I went and I was assistant coach there 1 year. And I ran every practice. And then I ended up head coach the next 4. And then all kinds of stuff after that. So that's kind of how I got started into coaching and started into college. And I've coached since then, like, I think 23 different college teams and the Red Bulls and all kinds of kids. And I'm coaching kids now. So anyways, that's how I did it.
Hey, I have a question for you, Wally, and for Tom. When you were kids, did you ever play lawn hockey with a tennis ball?
No,
A little bit.
My brother and I used to do that. It was after we got a summer job and we got rid of our pieces of plywood and we got real hockey sticks. We used to play with a tennis ball on the lawn and really developed really good hands because you had to handle it just so to keep it on top of the grass so it
Yeah.
would keep moving. and it was really a lot of fun. I mean, we got in a lot of trouble from my dad because we destroyed the lawn pretty much, with our feet, just going out there in the spring and doing that and kind of turning it into mud in spots. So we got in a little trouble for that, but just had to find a section where we could move that you didn't see that often. But it really developed good hands because you have to kind of have a touch for the ball to sort of float on top of the grass. So I just wondered if anybody else ever did that.
Well, we played a little bit of that, but there's a family called the Laycocks. And when we first got married, we lived in this apartment and there was a field right, the community. And these brothers, they played that all the time with a tennis ball, lawn hockey. And I think three of them played university, and they were really big in Germany. They went, they were unbelievable stick handlers, and I think it's from that, eh? They
Yeah.
really can handle the puck and
Yep.
score. And yeah, so I can see where that would happen because Wally knows them, Robin and Rick and Bob. But
Yeah, they were exceptional puck handlers, scorers, passers, broke all kinds of records. And it's interesting, you'd bring up something like playing lawn hockey, the different surface, using a tennis ball. I think, I did handle balls. I don't know where, but my story growing up in the winter was playing hockey on the street with horse droppings that were frozen. And me and a friend, we just spent hours and hours on the street near my home, which was, it was actually close, one of the main streets in a small town. And we grew up playing that kind of thing, running around in our shoes and just playing with horse turds, basically. And I do recall humorously one time shooting not a puck, but horse dropping too high and cutting his forehead open. So that ended the day with that. But I had an outdoor rink in my backyard. And my story is my father immigrated from the old country. We really had a pretty fundamental raising and upbringing. And eventually we moved to a small town in Saskatchewan, and three boys went to a community. And it was growing up in a community where my dad was a shoemaker and he had a shoe store. It was sports in the small community. You played everything. Uh, and you were coached by volunteer coaches in the community, great people that I remember, but I got to play all sports growing up. And when I got to school, uh, structured sports really didn't happen at school, in schools, until grade 9, which was the high school I went to. But if it wasn't for sports, uh, I wouldn't be here today. Like, we all earned a living and did all those things, which were a passion. But I think school teaching took myself and possibly Tom down the coaching path, because as a teacher, you work with students. So like a coach, you work with players, and you're looking at how to get them to come together, pay attention, follow direction, complete assignments, and be motivated to do their work. I recall in high school, I I really liked phys ed. I was teaching phys ed classes, but there's nothing more than I liked was coaching football, wrestling, and track, because when school was over, kids came to those because they loved it. So the passion for playing, and when you coach them, there was more of a joy to what you were doing together as a coach. And I think in some way we've missed out because there are other passions. And I know that having had 3 daughters grow up and find different passions, I think it's really important to be more balanced than possibly I was. And looking at life now that we're where we're at, I'm really happy with my involvement in the game today. But I think growing up, if it wasn't for sports and hockey in particular, uh, well, none of us would be here today.
Sure, sure. Well, it's funny you mentioned football, track, and wrestling, which those actually were the 3 sports that I did in high school. Those are 3 that I did. And I have a question for you. When you were a kid and you were shooting those horse turds, was it hard to find someone to play goalie?
We never had a goalie.
I wonder why.
We had a fence, we had a target. It was more often keep away than trying to score. And really, I had one friend, so it was literally passing and shooting and this kind of stuff. But how you could just spend like Tom did on the street or on the lawn for you guys, just play, the word play.
Yeah.
And you lose yourself playing and not thinking at all and becoming more natural and learning through that kinesthetic environment of play. It's something we've lost track of, and we've become very structured and deliberate. And I know when Hal was on, he talked about the today and the specialization and how over trained kids are, specifically in one sport too soon. Yet they seem to enjoy it. Um, so I don't know if whether we're old school, we think, well, the way we did it was the only way to do it. But today's generation, and I have a granddaughter playing soccer where it's soccer 24/7, probably for the last 10 years.
And part of that too, I think, ends up for some organizations, it becomes a financial thing because there was a time when in the summer you stopped playing and you went to, if you did anything, you went to some hockey schools. There was Turcotte stick handling, there was, a whole list of schools that you could go to, which those are mainly non-existent now because the organizations have taken over and they do all their summer stuff with their teams. And I think it becomes a financial aspect to it, as well. And boy, you better do what we do in the summer because, tryouts are in the fall and they may forget about you. They may not know who you are. So there's a little bit of that too, which makes it a little less pure, I think. When we did what we did as kids, there was no finance involved in that. You were just, like you said, you were just kids out playing, getting better, and you dealt with certain situations too, right? When you were playing your games with your buddies or your buddies, but there were still conflicts that you had to resolve, right, in some way. Like maybe somebody got you with a stick or whatever it might be. But there were other people skills that you learned along the way that because things are so structured for these kids, they don't have to learn those important life tools as well.
Tom, you got any comments on that?
Well, I think, like meeting Johanny was probably the most significant thing ever, is because he was a phys ed teacher too, but he was, one of the most famous hockey guys in Finland. And the idea of enjoy the game and the game is a great teacher, we shared that philosophy. So I've been taken to, I think, 7 countries on 3 continents and 10 different states, because it's almost a unique idea that, you can actually play games and learn how to play hockey. We do all those special rules and all this kind of stuff. So, I agree with Peter there about, you know, they're going to clinics like we just had a clinic, but you were there, Wally, and about half the time they're playing different games to use the skills in, and that's kind of seems to be almost a unique idea. And I know USA Hockey took it. I don't think they catch on that. You have rules where you have to do the things you just practiced. You don't just play a cross ice game and magic happens. So yeah, yeah, I agree, but I just want to make that point that practices, kids can have a lot more fun if and become better hockey players if the skills are incorporated into the games and this sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Tom, I'd like to make a point for listeners about what you said. I've seen many coaches over many years that they weren't teachers, they weren't educators. They did let kids play, and they made sure they had fun, and the kids did very well. Um, Today, coaches coach, they try to teach, but they're not educated to teach and break down things like you did at your clinic or hockey school this year, which have gone the way of the dodo bird hockey schools. And so they're all off on their tangents, getting individual skill work and not learning to think and play the game together, which you did at your school. And when you talk about uh, having special rules while playing games, uh, that's terrific. I learned from a Finnish coach. It's just a game of, and you might try this, Peter, with some of your community teams there. And they have to be able to turn both ways with a puck. But it's a game of 3-on-3, no goalies, just keep away. And you've got to do a tight turn before you pass. The skill of having to do an evasive turn before you pass. I tried this at U13, Tom, at our camp 2 years ago. They couldn't do it. Too much pressure. They weren't able to handle a puck, control it, move fast enough, fake, go the other way at U13. But at U15, they can. So probably that's the level that I would do it. The first one, do a tight turn before you pass so you gain space, have time to get your head up and see. The second step, when you get the puck, is skate backwards with it so you open up the ice for passing. And there's a third stage, which can be backhand passes only. So people learn to support behind. And the best one of all is you can only pass to the third player. And that means you can't give it back to the one that just gave it to you. So the third player's got to learn to get open. So that's a Finnish sequence from 40 years ago.
It's right in our book.
Yeah, that I think is, you know, number one, the kids don't have the skill to do that and apply in a game. They may be able to go around pylons, but they've got to go to some regressions of maybe one following one with pucks cooperatively, trying to stay close to the lead player as they go one way or the other. And then making sure they're paired competitively, and then you can try to lose them in a smaller space, tighter space. But the art of teaching and coaching, I'm finding you just can't expect coaches to do that, Tom. What you do, what I do, what Peter does. Uh, and there's no problem with that. If they just did let them play, figure things out for themselves, and on their own, they would develop. If you can give them some deliberate things to do and then play the games, oh, the payoff would be uh, double just playing. But sometimes coaches get into deliberate drills that the kids don't have the skills to do. They get frustrated. They yell at the kids. They're not having fun, yet they play games with a score clock.
Yeah.
And they play poorly. They don't share the puck. It's all one on one. They go as far as they can. And the kids who have invested the time and energy with individual skill work, they're going to have the puck, go coast to coast. And they're going to get the ice time while the other kids fall through the cracks by the wayside. That's pretty much the game today. It's all private investment, private growth and development, individual skill work. There's no concept of uh, team play. By team play, I don't mean breakouts. They are related, but I mean just being able to use each other as you play the game and read each other in position and skate accordingly. So, not sure it's ever going to get rectified because, uh, I'm talking with people at every level. I'm meeting on Monday, Tom, with Kyle Wanvig in his office to go over the kind of things we're talking about. And Kyle's amazing. He totally understands the need to teach. He's a great coach, but the little teaching things aren't his strength, but he sure can get his team to play well together. And then Tuesday, I'm meeting with the director of operations and another gentleman that's administrating to go over the U13 plan. And I'm thinking of involving Kyle and Mike Massey, who coached last year, in that planning. So I'm putting all my time into the U13 level with those coaches, but to the coaches out there, when you let them play, let them have fun, be as positive as you can, and make sure they work hard and they respect each other. That's going to be as good as you can do and as good as you should do. So, done with my preaching now.
Wally, I had a midget team